Ladies and gentlemen, we move yet to another speaker from Ecuador this time, Maria Albertina Navas, an advisor, teacher, and researcher. Dr. Maria Navas, her research area are social media, citizenship and politics, disinformation, and digital humanism. She will discuss the challenges of disinformation, a case study of Ecuador national strike. In this talk, Albertina Navas will summarize the 18 days of chaos that she experienced firsthand when her country, Ecuador, was completely paralyzed by a national protest led by indigenous communities. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will try to summarize in 8 minutes, 18 days of chaos I lived in my country, Ecuador, in Latin America. Let me give you some context. All the indigenous communities from all over the country decided to go to the capital city, Quito, in order to protest against the government because of some uncovered social needs. Unfortunately, some protests turned violent. So in a couple of days, we had more than 40,000 people on streets, and 150 people, more or less, were arrested because of the violence. And unfortunately, 18 days after, we had a balance of 9 fatalities. Most of the people who died in the arms of our students of the School of Medicine. I say our students because I serve as the Director of Strategic Communications for the Catholic University of Ecuador. And while this was happening on streets, also our campus was on a crossfire. What happened is that when the protesters were approaching their meeting point, they were blocked by the police, and a confrontation occurred right in front of the main entrance of our university. So the glass door exploded, and the campus was taken by both parts, by the protesters and by the police officers, as you can see. The protesters were looking for shelter. As you can see, there was a crossfire of gas nutshells. Actually, we collected more than 200 of them on campus. And we had some police officers that entered without authorization. Fortunately, we sent students and employees the day before to remote work and remote class. So we only had on campus a few students from the healthcare careers that voluntarily showed up in order to attend the wounded. So while this was happening on streets and this was happening on campus, actually our university was caught in the crossfire, both on campus and also on social media. Let me tell you what happened. We posted the official statement of the university indicating that we agreed with the motivations of the protests, but that we disagreed with the violence involved. And we announced that we were not going to provide shelter for the protesters, and instead that we were going to promote the dialogue between the government and the indigenous communities. As soon as we posted it, it went viral. And during those 18 days, we had more than 26,000 mentions about the university on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which is 10 times larger than the usual social conversation about the university. Unfortunately, 80 to 90% of the posts were negative. Most of them accusing us as promoting terrorism in Ecuador. Therefore, it was very difficult for us to know what to do. What would it be the best reaction, whether to respond, to ignore, or to remove any posts. So in that changing environment, with a high percentage of uncertainty, we were actually facing a disinformation scenario. There were some true facts framed in a false context. There were also false facts framed in a true context. And there were also some true facts told without any context. Therefore, I would say that disinformation is any kind of manipulation that may mislead audiences to an invalid conclusion. Maybe you may be thinking, well, if this sounds so bad, why do people engage with this information? I would say there are three main reasons. It may be because some people may want to be in the spotlight. Maybe others have a further political agenda. And maybe others are benefiting from a business. In the case of the university, there were the three factors coming out. We found out that the person behind the negativity on social media was a graduate student that wanted to take advantage of the situation and jump into the spotlight because he wanted to become the mayor of the capital city. And he wanted to position himself as the hero, as the one fighting against the ones promoting terrorism in the country. And of course, he couldn't do this alone. He was supported by all the troll farms led and paid by the government at that point in time. So I don't want you to leave a sense of hopelessness. On the contrary, I would like to encourage you to think about this information as going back to the basics. If we recall ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, he talked about what he called the triple filter of truthfulness, goodness, and usefulness. And I think that this is more relevant than ever. So if we're journalists or communications directors or just regular citizens and we're facing any information that may sound a little fishy, scandalous, and that is being widely spread, please ask yourself these three key questions. First, are you absolutely sure that what you're about to share is true? The second one, is what you're sharing something good for the people involved in the story? And the third question, is what you're going to share useful for your community of followers? If some of the answers is no, please consider not to share it. And maybe in some cases, the answers are not that clear. In that case, there's another principle I would like to recommend. If in doubt, do not share it. So, if you would like to pick one idea or one statement from these few minutes I have shared with you, I would kindly say, please remember the triple filter of truthfulness, goodness, and usefulness. And when in doubt, please do not share it. I think that fighting disinformation is not about rocket science. It's sometimes just as simple as going back to the basics. Thank you.